I am always amused at how people run around talking about how meeting of the minds and a signature and all this crap has to be on a contract. Well, let's look it up because I keep proving the signature part wrong. And you don't understand what the term meeting of the minds actually means. So, what are the elements of contract formation? When does formation happen? After you've negotiated the contracts. The meeting of the minds starts in the mind. The contract starts in the mind. Okay. The written document is the memorialization of the contract that all parties agreed to. And the problem with most people today, they've signed a whole bunch of contracts with government and everybody else since they were 18 or 15 or whenever they started working, and now they're coming back saying, "Oh, there was no meeting of the minds." Yes, there was, because you even signed most of the contracts that you read it and agreed to it. So that is proof there was a meeting of the minds. It's not their fault you didn't read it. But look at here. Do you see anything about a signature? Hmm. Let's scroll down. Look here. Let's see. The parties must have the capacity to contract. Capacity does with the mind. The parties must freely give their mutual consent to the contract. The parties must have a cause or reason for obligating themselves, and the contract must have a lawful purpose. Again, does it say anything about a signature? No. Oh, there's one that says there's five things: an offer, acceptance, a strict compliance with the terms of the offer, a meeting of the minds. Yeah, we're going to look at that in a minute. Each party's consent to the terms, execution, and delivery of the contract with the intent that it would be mutual and binding. Okay. Does it anything in there say about signature? So here is meeting of the minds. Actual assent. Assent is synonymous with consent by both parties to the formation. The formation comes after the meeting of the minds. It doesn't come beforehand. And it doesn't even get to the point of the written agreement yet of a contract, meaning that they agree on the same terms, conditions, and subject matter. Although a meeting of the minds was required under the traditional subjective theory of assent, modern contract doctrine requires only objective manifestation of assent, also termed mutuality of assent. Okay, now let's go to mutual assent. First, let's look at assent. Agreement, approval, or permission, verbal or nonverbal conduct, reasonably interpreted as willingness. The requirement of assent, which is fundamental to the formation of a binding contract, implies in a general way that both parties to an exchange shall have a reasonably clear conception of what they are getting and what they are giving up. Now, what is mutual assent? Agreement by both parties to a contract, usually in the form of an offer and acceptance. In modern contract law, mutual assent is determined by an objective standard. That is, by the apparent intention of the parties as manifested by their actions. And then it says CF, meeting of the minds. See, the contract starts in the mind. After you've negotiated everything, then you have formation. Formation is what was agreed by the parties. Remember, I said memorialization. Memorial, an abstract of a legal record. So the written contract is just an abstract of the record of the contract both parties agreed to. So people keep running around saying the wrong things because they don't understand. Well, look at this. This is CJS. Duty to read or learn contents of contract before signing it. One is under a duty to read or learn the contents of a written contract before signing it. And if, in the absence of fraud, duress, undue influence, and the like, The person fails to do so, the person is presumed to know the contents, signs at his or her own peril, suffers the consequences of his or her negligence, and is stopped to deny his or her obligation under the contract. See, you're running around saying there's no meeting of the minds. You agreed to the contract. How was there not? Did you ever think to ask any terms to see, hey, what does this term mean? You have a duty to understand it or learn of its contents. Now, my next question is based on this: an agreement between two or more parties creating obligations that are enforceable or otherwise recognizable at law, a binding contract. The writing that sets forth such an agreement. Oh, sets forth, in other words, it's not the writing of itself. The agreement was already made. Okay, now, would you tell me which of these contracts require or doesn't require? Because what type of contract are you talking about? Blanket contract, bona fide contract, build to print contract, certain contract, closed shop contract, collateral contract, cumulative contract, conditional contract. I can go on and on and on and on. Contract of adhesion, contract of affreightment, contract of beneficence. So, signature is not required in every type of contract, especially adhesion contracts. Now, does that mean there's not two parties? That I agree with. There typically is always two parties. It doesn't mean that a signature from both parties have to be part of it.